Good morning. It's Monday, February 24th. And you know, when I was a kid growing up, we played all kinds of sports outside. You went out after school and you played stickball or handball or touch football. All kinds of sports were available to you. And it was mostly boys playing with boys and girls playing with girls. Girls were jumping rope and they were playing potsy and things like that. So when I read articles like the story about what's going on in Maine, when Donald Trump has a problem because the Democratic governor of Maine stood up to him for bullying because he was against the fact that transgender girls or transgender boys were playing in the same category. Now, I, as a somewhat athletic person, never really played against any girls in anything, although I did try to jump rope with them occasionally, and they were much better at it than I was. So when you have a situation that we have in this country with sports, which is a major issue in most people's lives, sports are very, very important. And I don't think Donald Trump should be wasting his time diddling around with sports and deciding whether transgender athletes should be allowed to play or should not be allowed to play. I mean, that's up to the schools. That's up to the states. It's none of his business. No, I don't believe that a young person, a man, a boy, who has physical prowess and strength and size should be competing against women because he thinks he's a girl. If you're transgender, that's great. Then there should be a category of sports where transgenders compete against transgenders. Boys should compete against boys and girls should compete against girls. And I think that's the way it should be. And I don't think there should be a big hullabaloo about this. And I certainly don't think that the President of the United States should be wasting his precious time on this particular category. So we have a big uproar going on. And the Department of Civil Rights notified the Maine Education Commissioner that it had opened an investigation into the Maine Department of Education and the school administration, simply because the governor took a position that it's none of Donald Trump's business how Maine runs its board. So they are probing, focusing on the state's policies allowing transgender students to compete in school sports. Well, they should be allowed to compete, but they shouldn't be allowed to compete against the weaker sex, I will put it that way. There's no other way to put it. If you're a boy and you think you're a girl, you have the physical capabilities to be a better athlete than the women at their sport. So that would be unfair in my mind. There's got to be a separation. So because the governor stood up to Trump at the National Governors Association, Trump has now singled out Maine in a televised press event, demanded that Maine comply with his executive order barring transgender athletes from competing in girls' and women's sport, or risk losing the federal funding, threatening immediately to take your money away. Is that what you do? Why don't you sit down and talk to people and understand that your view is not necessarily the view of everybody else? Now, I disagree with transgender athletes competing against other athletes who are not transgender. But that's my own opinion. I'm not going to make a big ruckus out of it. If the state feels like doing it, you do it. And it's the people in the state that are responsible for holding those in charge responsible for whatever they're doing. So the governor's office issued a press release in response to the newly announced investigation. And Mills denounced the probe as a political retaliation, warning that Trump is using his federal power to punish states that refuse to comply with his agenda. It's a waste of time. Don't we have more important agendas to deal with than messing with who's competing in sport? Is this something that Trump's base is very happy that he's doing? Are they standing outside and cheering these actions? No president, Republican or Democrat, should be allowed to withhold funding authorized and appropriated by Congress and paid for by Maine taxpayers in an attempt to force somebody to comply with an order that's totally out of whack. That's basically what Governor Mills told Trump. It's a violation of our Constitution and of our law that you are responsible to uphold, she told him. So why? Why would the President of the United States get himself involved in this situation? Does he believe that that's what his base wants him to do? Probably. Probably he's kowtowing to a segment of our society that is way out of whack in my mind. Sports are something that is great, and people should be able to allow to compete in the proper manner. So I am not against the competing of transgenders in sports, but let them compete against themselves. We don't want a boy who thinks he's a girl competing in girls' sports. Physically, he's got a tremendous advantage. Mentally, maybe not, but physically, he does have an advantage. So that's unfair, and that should be looked at carefully. So this is a situation that once again has become a national crisis for no reason at all. This is the kind of thing that you can sit down and discuss privately. You don't make a big issue out of it. But Donald Trump will make a big issue out of everything because he loves the attention. And his base, unfortunately, loves him getting this attention. So we have a situation here that is totally unfair. Maine should do what Maine wants to do. It's no business for the federal government to stick their nose in where it doesn't belong. So I leave you with that. This morning, a waste of time to go after the people of Maine because they have rules that you don't approve of, so to speak. So I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye. Thank you.